Have you ever noticed how the right question, at the right moment, it can change everything? It's fascinating, isn't it? How a single shift in perspective, it can unlock a door you didn't even realize was closed. Because sometimes when you think about it, the thing that's been holding you back, it was never really there to begin with, was it? And that's the thing about questions. The kind that slip past the surface, diving deeper into the structure of thought itself. Not just any question, the meta-model questions. Questions that expose the gaps, the distortions, the missing pieces. So once they're seen, they can never be unseen. And once you see them, everything changes. You might wonder, what happens when you realize your limitations? They were built on vague, undefined ideas. That is when the fun begins. Because now, as you think about a belief that you've held for a long time, you can ask, how do I know that's true? According to whom? What would happen if it wasn't true? Have I always believed that? What else could this mean? When you ask that, something shifts. You see, a belief is like a table. It only stands if the legs are solid. When you pull out just one, the whole thing wobbles, doesn't it? And when it wobbles, you realize you can build a stronger one, a better one that actually serves you. Because the truth is, every belief has a structure, a foundation. And the moment you see it clearly, you gain the power to reshape it. And the best part, you don't even have to try, because as you think about that now, as your mind turns it over, considering, questioning, re-evaluating, you can already feel that shift, can't you? And then comes the magic. Because once the old structure cracks, we don't leave an empty space. No, we build something new, something empowering. That's where the sleight of mouth comes in. Language that bends reality. Like stepping into a new perspective and realizing it was always there. What if that isn't a problem, but a gift in disguise? Isn't it amazing how challenges create strength? Maybe the very thing you're resisting is the thing that will set you free. How does it feel knowing that you're already changing? And isn't it interesting, as you consider that now, your mind naturally begins to adjust. Because when you think about it, isn't it true? You've changed in ways you never expected before. And if you've changed before, who says you can't do it again, effortlessly, naturally, without even trying? Because now, as these words settle in, you might notice something, a feeling, a thought, a realization. Maybe even one you can't quite put into words yet. And that's good, because sometimes the deepest shifts happen before you even notice them. When you think about that, don't you wonder, what's the next belief that's ready to evolve? And you don't have to answer that now. Or maybe you already have, because it's already happening, isn't it? And isn't it fascinating how a simple thought, a single question, can create a shift so profound that everything after it feels different? Because as you sit there listening now, you might already notice something happening, something just beneath the surface, a subtle shift, a quiet realization, or perhaps a feeling that hasn't quite taken shape yet. And that's perfect, because that is how all change begins, isn't it? A thought, a question, a doorway appearing, where before there was only a wall. When you think about it, you already know that every belief, every pattern, every limitation that seemed so solid before, it was never really as permanent as it once felt. Because the moment you question it genuinely, deeply, you loosen its grip. You soften the edges. When something softens, it becomes flexible. And what's flexible can change. So as you hear these words, as you wonder what's shifting now, let's play with an idea. Because you know how sometimes people assume things. They assume they know what's real, what's possible, what they can and cannot do. And yet, how often do these assumptions go unexamined? You see it, don't you? someone says, I can't, and yet. Have they truly ever tested it? Or is it just something they've told themselves so many times, they've forgotten to question it? You might begin to notice how easy it is to turn that same question inward. How do I know that's true? What am I not seeing yet? If I believe the opposite, how would that change things? Because when you change how you think about something, that something changes, doesn't it? And it happens so naturally, so effortlessly, that by the time you realise it, you're already thinking differently. And that's interesting, isn't it? And as you think about that, you might start to wonder, if it's true that assumptions shape reality, then what happens when you shift an assumption? When you stretch a belief beyond its usual borders? Because here's the thing, beliefs aren't facts, they're lenses. They colour what you see, what you feel, what you believe is possible. And the moment you change the lens, the entire picture transforms. And isn't it exciting to realise that transformation doesn't have to be hard? It doesn't have to take time. It doesn't even have to be something you do. Because in this very moment, as these words settle into the spaces between your thoughts, it's already happening. Maybe you can feel it now, that sense of expansion, of possibility, that feeling when you step outside of an old belief and suddenly see beyond it. Like stepping outside a house that you didn't even realise that you were inside. And isn't it interesting how the moment you step outside, the walls that once seemed so real, they just dissolve. And once they dissolve, what's left? Freedom, choice, a new way of thinking. And the best part, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once a belief shifts, it never quite returns to its original shape, does it? Because now, when someone says, I can't, or that's just the way it is, you can smile. Because you know all it takes is a question, a new frame, a slight tilt in perspective, and suddenly, what was once impossible becomes inevitable. And that makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else is possible that you haven't even considered yet? You don't have to answer that now, or maybe you already have, because it's already happening, isn't it?